The last set of rules that teams should create when they first come together is called their norms. Norms are shared understandings for how you behave toward each other. If goals answer the question, why are we working together, and roles are all about what you do, norms answer the question, how do we work together? The three types of norms to consider are how your team wants to communicate, how you'll make decisions, and how you'll handle conflict. Let's start with the first type of norm. As you discuss how you'll communicate, keep in mind two things: the communication channels you use and how often you use them, or in other words, format and frequency. Now, why does format matter? Because communicating a message in the wrong medium can lead to misunderstandings, sometimes with major consequences. In fact, you could argue that a pretty simple misunderstanding led to the UK abandoning the gold standard in 1931. It all revolved around Montague Norman, who was the head of the Bank of England during the beginning of the Great Depression. As the global economy went into freefall, people were heading to British banks in droves to exchange their money for gold, and the banks were running out. This put a huge amount of pressure on Norman to delink the British pound from the price of gold, but Norman refused. He thought that allowing the value of the currency to float freely would not only hurt the British economy, but threaten the very existence of Western civilization. Now, to say that Norman was putting a lot of pressure on himself is kind of an understatement. And he actually ended up having a nervous breakdown. On doctor's orders, he took a cruise to Canada, leaving his staff with the very clear understanding that they were not to go off the gold standard. While he was gone, they decided that the crisis was just too severe and they couldn't wait any longer. They sent a telegram to him on the ship he was on saying, "Sorry, we have to go off tomorrow and cannot wait to see you before doing so." Now, Norman read this and thought, oh, my coworkers are going to be away. When I get back from vacation, they won't be able to see me. That's too bad. He didn't think anything else of it, so he didn't respond or try to stop what was about to happen. England ended up abandoning the gold standard right before Norman arrived. And when he found out, he was so shocked, he had to go back on vacation for the weekend. Now, this is an extreme example, but consider all the miscommunication that happens around the modern versions of the telegram, email, and text. How many times have you seen coworkers and friends get upset at each other because of a misunderstood email? For example, what one person intends to be an enthusiastic exclamation point can often be read by another person as aggression or anger. This happens because, as studies show, most of the information we communicate to others about our emotional state and attitude is actually communicated primarily through our body language. Second most important is our vocal tone. So the actual words we use only give other people a very small amount of information about what we're really feeling. This is why discussing important issues over text or email can be such a big problem. There's a lot of opportunity for misunderstanding. What this means is you have to think about the format of your communication. In other words, the channel or the medium you use. What your team can do is list all of the reasons you need to communicate. It could be project updates, budget reviews, team check-ins, whatever the case may be. And then list all of the communication channels you use, like email, phone, meetings, chat apps. And then start matching each list up. Which channels are you going to use for each type of communication? In addition to format, you should decide on the frequency of each type of communication. Face-to-face meetings are great because, as I've been saying, we tend to communicate more clearly in person. But at the same time, you can't have a meeting for everything. Surveys show that employees in the US spend a third to up to a half of their time in meetings, and meetings are often identified as one of our biggest productivity killers. Try to be mindful about how often you use each type of communication channel, including meetings, so that your team doesn't feel overwhelmed. Now that we've touched on communication norms, next we'll look at norms for making decisions and managing conflict.